1474. One 475. 1476. Senator Shaba Lafiaji, Kwara North.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Shaba Lafiaji. I represent Kwara North. Arise to move that the votes and proceedings of 20th December 2017 be adopted as formal.
Senator Ben Murray Bruce, Bayelsa East.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben Murray Bruce, Bayelsa East. I stand to second the motion that the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 20th December 2017 be seconded. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 20th December 2017 be hereby approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 20th December 2017 is hereby approved. Announcement. Notification of wedding fatia. With full gratitude to Almighty God, I'm pleased to inform and invite you, Your Excellency, and my distinguished colleagues to the wedding fatia of my son, Anas Kabiru Gaya, and Sadia Kabiru Ahmed, scheduled to take place on Friday, 22nd December 2017, at the annual Jumat Mosque Wuse 2, Abuja, by 2 p.m., inshallah. I will highly be honored if Your Excellency and my distinguished colleagues will be able to grace the occasion. In a situation where your unflinching commitment hinders your participation, your prayers to the couple will be paramount. Yours sincerely, Senator Architect Dr. Kabiru Gaya, Vice President, IPU African Group. Petitions? Leader of the Senate. Petitions? Yeah, point of order. Petitions. Yes, Senator Issa Misau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I still remain Senator Comrade Issa Misau, representing Bauchi Central. Mr. President, I have two petitions from the same person, J.M. Jai and Co. This is a petition against the various activities in the maritime sector. There is no any litigation concerning the petition.
Yes, come and lay the petition. Petition is referred to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Yeah, Brother Shehu Sani.
I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to draw us to an order 42 and 43 and state thought. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by all, at least 1/5 of the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Not more than 1 such motion may be made at the same sitting. And Order 43 goes by the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I have with me a submission on the death of Alhaji Gidado Idris, dignity and distinction, Alhaji Gidado Idris. Alhaji Gidado Idris died at the age of 82. He is from the Zazzau royal family. He was educated at the Institute of Administration, Congo, which is now ABU Zaria, and later proceeded to the University of Leeds in the United Kingdom. He was on several times the district officer under colonial times to the states of Benue and Sardauna and Adamawa province. The late Gidado Idris was the private principal secretary to the late Premier of Northern Nigeria, Alhaji Sir Ahmad Bello. He was PAMSEC in many of these federal ministries, including aviation and finance and so many. He was the secretary to the Constitution Drafting Committee, which ushered the Second Republic. Late Alhaji Gidado Idris was the SGF to late General Sani Abacha's government. Alhaji Gidado Idris was one notable Nigerian that has, in every possible way, contributed to the development and progress of Nigeria's civil service. He has served his country with dignity, with distinction, and with honesty. And he is one Nigerian that has lived a modest, clean, nice, and reputable life. He was an exemplary figure, an inspiration to generations of Nigerians that desires to have a better, more prosperous, and more united Nigeria. The late Alhaji Gidado Idris has demonstrated as a Nigerian that he is an example of unity. He is an example of service, and he is the one who sacrificed us his life for the unity, for peace, and prosperity of Nigeria. I will urge on this Senate to refer him and join other Nigerians in praying for the repose of the soul of the man who has served his country and has lived to that very age. And I will urge the Senate to grant him a 1 minute silence for the repose of his soul and for his own family. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Mr. President.
Yes, and Toguma.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I wanted to contribute to the sympathy and condolence of Alhaji Gidado Idris. I know Alhaji Gidado Idris as a clerk to the National Assembly during the Saka Republic. I know him closely. He was an accomplished civil servant, and I knew him at a very difficult time that we who formed the MPN government found ourselves that time. We don't have the absolute majority in the National Assembly, and we in the party frequenting the National Assembly at that time, interfacing with so many leaders of various political parties, and through him we were able to stabilize the government at that time, because he worked very closely to the Senate leader then, Senator Abubakar Bukola Saraki, of blessed memory. And Mr. President, that time, Gidad Idris played a very prominent role in stabilizing our government. So I urge the Senate to accord him the respect and raise a committee. Raise a committee to go and condole the government and people of Kaduna State and its immediate family. Thank you, sir.
Senator Booker. Sorry.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I would like to join my colleagues to offer my condolence on the days of Gidad Idris. For those of us that have worked with Gidad Idris in the civil service, we know the much that he has done in the development of this country and the civil service in general. A very good disciplinarian, astute civil servant to the core, a no-nonsense man. Gidado has really worked assiduously towards the development of this country's human resources and also the management and development of this country. He has done a lot in various fields, as mentioned by my colleagues. He has worked at various locations, rising to be the secretary to the government of the Federation during some difficult times when it was really very difficult to get the way Nigerians wanted to get the civil service and the military in particular to work together. He has stabilized the civil service and also put it on a pedestal of growth, pedestal of discipline, and many other things that he has done to contribute to his quota. I would like to join my colleagues in praying to Almighty Allah for the repose of his soul, and may he lie in perfect peace. And I support the motion that the Senate will actually observe the 1 minute silence and perhaps even send a condolence message across to his family. Thank you very much.
Senator Abu Ibrahim.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Abu Ibrahim. I represent Katsina South. I, as a young civil servant, worked under the Constitution. And as my other colleagues have said, he was a veteran civil servant, very hardworking, very thorough. All those of us who worked under him found him to be a very worthy leader. Somebody who would call his subordinates, show them where they were wrong, and where they were right, and where they should improve. The death of Gidad Idris is a loss to Nigeria, to Kaduna and the Katsina states that he administered when he was secretary to the government. May his soul rest in peace.
Distinguished colleagues, there's just a single prayer, and I'll put the question that the Senate do observe 1 minute silence in favor of the deceased. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Can you please observe 1 minute silence in favor of? rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order, Senator Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 1 and 127 in respect of our REC nominee, President Electoral Commissioner, to represent Zamfara State in the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC. Mr. President, I'm coming under Order 1 to stress the importance of this book to this chamber. And Order 127, which Order 1 reinforces that business of the Senate must be conducted in accordance with the provision of the Senate standing orders, and anything done outside is null and void. Mr. President, in your wisdom, when I came with the motion for a passionate appeal to my colleagues to do justice to an innocent Nigerian who was nominated to represent Zamfara State in the Independent National Electoral Commission as a resident electoral commissioner. Mr. President, you directed that the matter be referred back to the committee for further legislative action. I took that wise counsel from you that the committee will do the needful, even when I know there is nothing they can add to what they have done, because their report was quite explicit and extensive. Mr. President, Order 127 says, in considering the confirmation of a nominee, the committee shall call as witness any person, shall not call any person as witness other than the nominee himself. However, resort may be made to memoranda submitted to the committee if any. Such memoranda should contain the names of the writer, verifiable address, a clear and dated signature, and it shall be accompanied by an affidavit deposed to the veracity of its content. Mr. President, it is very clear that the only opposition to this nominee is coming from the governor of Zamfara State, who wrote to the president that the nominee is not from Zamfara State, but from Sokoto State. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague from Zamfara North stood on the floor of this Senate to say that the nominee is from Kebbi State. Mr. President, I don't know, clearly it doesn't hold any water. The committee did a very good job when they said the nominee was born in Gusau. He schooled in Gusau Primary School. He went to secondary school in Anka. He served as the Commissioner of Justice and the Attorney General of Zamfara State for 4 years. He served as a commissioner, as chairman of Anti-Corruption Commission of Zamfara State. Mr. President, Senator Yerima is seated right in front of me. He can attest to the fact that this man served Zamfara State meritoriously. Yerima is always remembered till today in Nigeria as the commander of the implementation of Sharia. All he did, the engine room of that work, was this very nominee as Attorney General and the Commissioner of Justice from Zamfara State. Mr. President, the governor wrote a petition. He has a right to write a petition, but he cannot violate our order. His petition is not accompanied by any affidavit. His petition is not, well, he has a verifiable address. It is clearly dated, but it's not accompanied by any affidavit. Therefore, his petition is null and void and of no consequence in this matter. Mr. President, I want to state it very, very clear. The governor has no right. This is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are not his boys. I am not his boy. And this Senate cannot be his rubber stamp, Mr. President. We cannot hold somebody's future because of the interest of one particular person, who is equally guilty, if not guiltier, than Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, yes, the nominee's parents were not from the Zamfara State, but he was born there. So also the governor's parents, his forefathers, are not from the Zamfara State. Today he is the governor of the Zamfara State. He cannot stand in the way of progress of somebody who served the state meritoriously. Mr. President, I want to crave your indulgence. I want to crave the indulgence of my colleagues, Mr. President. It is very clear the committee cannot come with anything new. Mr. President, my motion came with a prayer. Yes, they cannot come because they are already in violation of this order book. Because in considering the petition of the governor, they should have told the governor that he needs to depose to an affidavit supporting his claim. We are not his rubber stamps, Mr. President. Therefore, I want to crave your indulgence in the spirit of the season. We are closing today for Christmas to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Mr. President, I want us to do justice to this man. Let us clear this man. Mr. President, let us go back to my motion. I had two prayers. Let the Senate send a decision and open this case to consider this gentleman. Mr. President, you have considered the first prayer. I want to crave your indulgence. Open the second prayer, put the questions. If my colleagues see it differently, Mr. President, so be it. Majority will always have their way, while the minority will have their say. I have said my own. Mr. President, I want you to please, in the spirit of this season, we are going to, Mr. President, put the question whether the nominee will be confirmed. Let my colleagues do justice to him. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Kabiru Marafa. I think it's also in the spirit of the season that we enjoyed you so much time to speak on this matter. As today being our last day with so many issues, honestly, I sympathize with you. I really appreciate your comments. But as you know, Parliament is a place that we're a stickler for procedures. As much as how good the cause can be, we must continue to respect the procedures because that's the only way the institutions will survive. We have given a responsibility to a committee, a colleague of yours, and I think it would be wrong on our part to preempt or absorb those powers. You've made your points, very valid points, and we have to, as frustrating as can be, what I can assure you that sometimes justice might be delayed, but justice would be done. We'll wait for Nazif to bring this report back and justice will be done. I appreciate your point. So for now, I just have to I note it. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name as Senator Andy Uba on the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors in Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 584, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Forensic and Investigative Auditors of Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 584, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Sani Mustafa on the FCT Property and Conveyance Bill 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, FCT Property and Conveyance Bill 2017, SB 555, first reading.
FCT Property and Conveyance Bill 2017 SB 555 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi on the Agriculture, Industry and Modernization Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Agriculture, Industry and Modernization Bill 2017, SB 588, first reading.
Agriculture, Industry and Modernization Bill 2017 SB 588 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Adamu Alero on the Federal Referral Hospital Establishment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Referral Hospital Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 589, first reading.
Federal Referral Hospital Establishment, etc. Bill 2017 SB 589 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Larry Tajusho on National Health Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Health Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 590, first reading.
National Health Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2017 SB 590 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Philip Tanimu Aduda on the FCT College of Nursing and Midwifery Bill 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, FCT College of Nursing and Midwifery Bill 2017, SB 591, first reading.
FCT College of Nursing and Midwifery Bill 2017 SB 591 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Sabo Mohammed on the Export Prohibition Act Cap E 22 LFN 2004 Repeal Bill 2017. Mr. President, may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Export Prohibition Act Cap E 22 LFN 2004 Repeal Bill 2017 SB 575 first reading.
Export Prohibition Act Cap E 22 LFN 2004 Repeal Bill 2017 SB 575 first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of the Diplomatic Immunities and Privileges Regional Episcopal Conference of West Africa, Order number 11, 2016, in accordance with the provisions of Section 21 of the Diplomatic Immunities and Privileges Act, Cap D9 LFN 2004. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
You mean you want to call on Senator Monsura to lead? Senator Sumono.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Monsura Sumono, representing Oyo Central Senatorial District, Chairman, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs. I do write that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on Diplomatic Immunities and Privileges Regional Episcopal Conference of West Africa, Order number 11, 2016, for us to be like Thank you.
Senator Ben Mori Bruce.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben Mori Bruce, representing Bayelsa East. I do rise to second the motion that the House do receive the report on the Diplomatic Immunity and Privileges Regional and Episcopal Conference of West Africa, Order number 10, 2016.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Foreign Affairs on Diplomatic Immunities and Privileges Regional Episcopal Conference of West Africa, Order number 11, 2016, in accordance with the provisions of Section 12 of Diplomatic Immunities and Privileges Act, Cap D9 LFN 2004. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Monson, come and lay the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President CNC for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as resident electoral commissioners for the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in accordance with Section 154. Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The names are 1. Elder Monde Udo Top, Commissioner, Akwa Ibom. 2. Baba Abba Yusuf, Commissioner, Borno. 3. Eric Olawale, Commissioner, Oshun. 4. Dr. Uthman Abdurrahman Ajidagba, Commissioner, Kwara. 5. Musa Shegun Agbaje, Commissioner, Ekiti. 6. Dr. Cyril Omoragbe, Commissioner, Edo. 7. Yahya Bello, Commissioner, Nasarawa. 8. Dr. Emmanuel Alex Hart, Commissioner, Rivers. And 9. Mohamed Magaji Ibrahim, Commissioner, Gombe. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President CNC to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President CNC be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, on confirmation of the nomination of the following persons as read out by the leader for appointment as resident electoral commissioners for INEC with sections 1541 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President CNC on the confirmation of the nomination of the persons as read out by the leader for the appointment as resident electoral commissioner for the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in accordance with Section 1541 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This is referred to the Committee on INEC report back in 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President CNC for the confirmation of the nomination of Ibrahim Rufai Imam as Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal for the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in accordance with Section 261, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President CNC to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President CNC be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the request of the Presidency on the confirmation of the nomination of Ibrahim Rufai, Imam, as the Grand Qadi of Sharia Court of Appeal, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in accordance with sections 261 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and for a possible referral to the relevant committee for necessary action. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President CNC on the confirmation of the nomination of Ibrahim Rufai Imam as Grand Qadi of Sharia Court of Appeal, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in accordance with Section 2611 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This is referred to the Committee on Human Rights and Legal Matters Judiciary. Report back in 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Queen of the bills of this season. the bill on the Federal Polytechnic, Umpu, Enugu State, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. The single senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 13th of July, 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Ike Okwaramadu, the DSP, to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Let me express my gratitude to the uncommon leader for making it possible for us to have this bill considered today for second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, permit me to lead the debate on the general principle of a bill which seeks to establish the Federal Polytechnic in Enugu State, which bill is hereinafter referred to by its short title as the Federal Polytechnic Establishment Bill 2017. Dear colleagues, the clarion call for diversification should not only be limited to the economy, but be extended to one of the major drivers of our economy, which is education. As a nation, we should go beyond the conventional methods of education and begin to focus on technical and technological-oriented education that will enable us to invent ideas and methods that are peculiar to our environment and will further stimulate our economy. Distinguished colleagues, the bill seeks to establish the Federal Polytechnic in Enugu State to provide full-time or part-time courses of instruction and training in technology, applied science, commerce and management, and such other fields of applied learning relevant to the needs of the development of Nigeria, and for research in the development and adaptation of techniques as the Council may from time to time determine. The other objectives are contained at page 2 to 3. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, it is worthy of note that Enugu State, being the headquarters of the former Eastern region, the capital of the old Anambra State, as well as the capital of the then Enugu State, has no federal polytechnics in existence currently. In 2011, the federal government of Nigeria came up with a policy of at least one federal university, one federal polytechnic, and one federal college of education in each state of the Federation of Nigeria. Regrettably, Enugu State is one of the few states yet to benefit from the establishment of a federal polytechnic in each state of the Federation. This bill will therefore ensure that implementation of this policy in Enugu State, in line with Order 77.3 of our Senate Standing Order 2015 as amended, I attach here with a compendium of the financial implications of the establishment of the polytechnics. I therefore humbly invite the District Senate to support the passage of this bill. Let me report, sir, that the Senate leader have graciously agreed to second the motion for the second reading of this bill, because this institution, these polytechnics, will be home to the great people of Yobe. It will be home for the great people of Kwara State. The FCT citizens and inhabitants will find solace in this school. And I'm aware that the people of Kebbi, also and Zamfara, will find this place very habitable. So I therefore move that the second reading of this bill be taken. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Plenary Bruce by SIS.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Ben Murray Bruce by SIS. I think this bill is very, very important. Mine is a terrible thing to waste. Enugu needs this polytechnic. I support it wholeheartedly. There's no need for debate. I think we should just approve it. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill is read second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leaders, Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic Umpu, Enugu State, to provide full-time courses in technology, applied science, management, and other fields of studies, and to make provisions for the general administration of the Polytechnic 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Federal Polytechnic Enugu State to provide full-time courses in technology, applied science management, and other fields of studies, and to make provisions for the general administration of the Polytechnic 2017 second reading statement. This bill is referred to Committee on Tertiary Institutions and report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 4 to 8 orders of the day are House bills for concurrence as listed on the order paper. Distinguished senators will recall that these bills were read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2017. Mr. President, for the simple nature of the amendments, I will use a single lead debate on these bills.
Right.
To the other side. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, it is my honor and privilege to lead the debate on the following bills from the House of Representatives for the concurrence of the Senate. The bills are Vigilante Group of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, HB 718. 2. Subsidiary Legislation, Legislative Scrutiny Bill 2017, HB 13. 3. Courts and Tribunals, Fines and Financial Penalties Bill 2017, HB 642. 4. Radiographers Registration, etc. Act Amendment Bill 2017, HB 676. And 5. Medical Residency Training Bill 2017, HB 982. The Vigilante Group of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2017 was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2017. This bill seeks to establish the Vigilante Group of Nigeria, charged with the responsibilities, among others, to provide community policing, maintenance of law and order in communities, and community service for Nigerians. The subsidiary legislation, Legislative Scrutiny Bill 2017, was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 19th December 2017. This bill seeks to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to scrutinize and approve subsidiary legislation before it becomes enforceable in order to ensure compliance with parent acts and guard against abuse of delegated powers. The Courts and Tribunals, Fines and Financial Penalties Bill 2017 was read the first time in this chamber also on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2017. This bill seeks to make provision for a system of standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed by courts, tribunals, and other judicial bodies by providing maximum of fines set against a standard scale, so that where there is need to increase the levels of fines as a result of inflation, the legislature needs to modify only the scale without amending individual pieces of legislation. The Radiographers Registration etc. Act Amendment Bill 2017 was read the first time in this chamber also on Tuesday, 19th December 2017. This bill seeks to amend the Radiographers Registration Act, CAP, RILFN 2004, to provide for increased penalties and give the federal court appellate jurisdiction. The Medical Residency Training Bill 2017 was read the first time in this chamber also on Tuesday, 19th December 2017. This bill seeks to regulate the medical residency training program in Nigeria. Mr. President, my very respected and distinguished colleagues, these bills are not controversial and were subjected to rigorous scrutiny and public hearings in the House of Representatives before passage. I therefore urge you to support the second reading of these bills. Thank you.
Any contribution? I think these are simple issues, or if not, let me just put the question. Those in favor that this bill, those in favor that this bill now read second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the vigilante group of Nigeria charged with the responsibilities to, among others, provide community policing, maintenance of law and order, and community service for Nigerians and for related matters 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the vigilante group of Nigeria charged with responsibilities to, among others, provide community policing, maintenance of law and order, and community service for Nigerians for related matters 2017, read the second time. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to scrutinize and approve subsidiary legislation before it becomes enforceable and to provide for matters incidental thereto 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to scrutinize and approve subsidiary legislation before it becomes enforceable and to provide for matters incidental thereto 2017 is read the second time. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to make provisions for a system of standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed by courts, tribunals, and other judicial bodies 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to make provisions for a system of standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed by courts, tribunals, and other judicial bodies 2017, second time, is read the second time. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, read for an act to amend the Radiographers Registration etc. Act, CAP, R1, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and for related matters 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Radiographers Registration Establishment etc. Act, CAP, R1, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and for related matters 2017 is read the second time. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to regulate the medical residency training program in Nigeria and for related matters 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to regulate the medical residency training program in Nigeria and for related matters 2017 is read the second time. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I thought we would refer them to relevant committees. So we'll do third reading straight? No, I know, but I'm thinking our committee should look at them.
They've done that already.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate Resolves Committee of the Board to consider the report close by close.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we go into Committee of the Board to consider this report close by close. I so second.
Those in favor that resolve committee of the whole say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we have 5 here. The first one is the Vigilante Group of Nigeria, established in April 2017. Has 33 clauses. So I'll start with clause 1. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3, 4, and 5. Those in favor that clause 3, 4, and 5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 6, 7, and 8. Those in favor that 6, 7, and 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9, 10, and 11. Those in favor that 9, 10, 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12. Those in favor that clause 12 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 13. Those in favor that clause 13 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 22. Those in favor that clause 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 29 on page 18. Those in favor that clause 29, 30, and 31 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 32 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 33 short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that schedule 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that explanatory memorandum on page 21 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The next bill is the bill on subsidiary legislation. This has only 7 clauses. Deputy Leader, any comments? Okay. The same colleagues, those in favor that clause 1 and 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 3 and 4 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 5 and 6 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that short title clause 7 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The next bill is the courts and fines financial penalty bill. 4 clauses here. Those in favor that clause 1 and 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 3 and 4 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The next one is the radiographers registration, etc. amendment bill. This has 6 clauses. Those in favor that clause 1, 2, and 3 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 4 and 5 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that short title clause 6 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 2 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And the last one is the medical residency training bill. This has 10 clauses. Distinguished colleagues, I said that those in favor that clause 1, 2, and 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4. Those in favor that clause 5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6. Those in favor that clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in favor that clause 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9. Those in favor that clause 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 10 short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the charter report progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that revert to plenary to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Vigilante Group of Nigeria Establishment etc. Bill 2017 and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 10 as recommended, 11 to 20 as recommended, 21 to 31 as recommended, schedules as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the subsidiary legislative scrutiny bill 2017 and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 6 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Courts and Tribunals Fines and Financial Penalties Bill 2017 and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 3 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Radiographers Registration etc. Amendment Bill 2017 and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 5 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Medical Residency Training Bill 2017 and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 9 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bills be now read the third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that these bills be now read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now be read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the vigilante group of Nigeria charged with the responsibilities to, among others, provide community policing, maintenance of law and order, and community service for Nigerians and for related matters 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Vigilante Group of Nigeria, VGN, charged with responsibilities to, among others, provide community policing, maintenance of law and order, and community service for Nigerians and for related matters 2017 is read the third time and passed. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to scrutinize and approve subsidiary legislation before it becomes enforceable and to provide for matters incidental thereto 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to scrutinize and approve subsidiary legislation before it becomes enforceable and to provide for matters incidental thereto 2017 is read the third time and passed. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to make provision for a system of standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed by courts, tribunals, and other judicial bodies 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to make provisions for a system of standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed by courts, tribunals, and other judicial bodies 2017 is read the third time and passed. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Radiographers Registration, etc. Act, Cap R1, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and for related matters, 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Radiographers Registration, etc. Act, Cap R1, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and for related matters, 2017, is read the third time and passed. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to regulate the medical residency training program in Nigeria and for related matters 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to regulate the medical residency training program in Nigeria and for related matters 2017 is read the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come under the 42.2 and 43 of our standing rules. Under 42.2.
Go ahead.
He says if a claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Yesterday, Senator Anyanwu came up with the issue of the $1 billion released by the Governors Forum for the fight against insurgents, and under our rule, this matter is supposed to come up today for our consideration. But I've looked through the other paper and it's not there. I just want to seek explanation.
Yeah, distinguished colleague, this matter should come up today, but Senator Samayan was not able to present his paper today. He sought for more time, and I agreed with him that we will take it over the next legislative day, which will be... No. As you can see, he's not here for, and unfortunately we've put it down. Next legislative day is when we resume. It will be the first item on the agenda on the other paper. Just for your information. He's not here. We can't take it when the person who is moving is not here. And it's a very, very important motion that needs to be delivered very well. So it cannot be delegated. We have pushed it for the next legislative day. Leader of the Senate. But we will take it. I can assure you that we will take it. I give you assurance that we will take it. No. This our party does not do things like that. We will not spend money that does not follow due process. Yes, I am assuring you that money will not be spent until we come back here and debate it. We will be assured. Thank you, my colleagues. Leader of the Senate. Leader, I hope you heard the commitment I've made on behalf of all of us.
Mr. President, I've heard you very, very well.
Okay.
And it's a promise we will keep.
Amen.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the consideration of the report.
1 second, sorry, the leader. Senator Kiari, Abu, you've heard the commitment we have made. You are the chairman in the Senate Committee on Defense. So please take note of the commitment that we have made on behalf of our colleagues. All right. Okay, Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Senate committees on the 2017 budget of corporations and agencies of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as follows: Trade and Investment, Corporate Affairs Commission, Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, Financial Reporting Council, Nigeria Export-Import Bank, and Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Mr. President, with your permission, no. Clerk, this is supposed to be the chairman of the committee.
Yes,
You invite chairman of the committee, who will be represented by Senator Hunkwe. As so moved, Mr. President.
Senator Hunkwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I would need to remind Mr. President and distinguished colleagues that this presentation for the IGR budget for those agencies listed was made on Thursday, the 2nd of November, and the Senate at plenary referred back the same document and presentation for further action of the committee involving and engaging the various individual agencies. Issues raised at that sitting on the 2nd of November have been listed as indicated in the report, starting from page 1, but mainly on page 2 of the report, indicating the engagement of the committee along with the individual agencies. The first agency there is the Corporate Affairs Commission, Mr. President, and issues raised on the 2nd of November bordered on the differential in the salary and emolument bill for 2017 as in comparison with the same salary bill in 2016. What we gathered as listed and indicated on page 2 there is that in 2016, the salary bill was 7.8 billion, while in 2017, it appeared to hike up to 9.3 billion. The explanation that followed, Mr. President, was that there is the implementation of the 13-month salary, which is under personnel that was provided in the 2016 appropriation year, but for very poor paucity of funds and collection, that item of the budget in 2016 was never implemented. And since it was approved in their own budget of 2016, they carried that 13th salary or 13-month salary for 2016 and built it into the 2017 appropriation year that was approved for them earlier in the year. So also, under personnel, the issue of promotion arrears for the same 2016, which they could not implement because of poor collection in that 2016 appropriation year, was also carried forward. So also the National Health Insurance Scheme, which was indicated. These put together were part of what blew the salary bill of 2017 as indicated to mount to the level of 9.3 billion instead of 7.815 billion. That is for the Corporate Affairs Commission. Going to page 3, Mr. President, the summary of their IGR was also indicated there. What was budgeted and what was actually collected. To show the differential in collection in 2016, 15 billion was budgeted for collection, but they only collected 8.7 billion, showing evidence of the reasons why they could not implement part of the personnel, emolument and costs for the 2016, which was hitherto approved on the 2016 budget and was carried forward. B, that is the bottom part of the page, on a oil and gas free zone. Issues raised on those items were basically two in number. The first is their revenue profile. What was provided and approved in 2016, actual and approved in their budget was 1.9 billion. And what they collected exactly actual was 1.4 billion. But the issue of their internally generated revenue, as indicated in the 2017 budget, seemed to hike almost 2-3 times. And the Senate raised that issue, but we discovered one item of revenue which hitherto the oil and gas free zone has not been collecting is something collected to the collection on land allocated to individual companies within the oil free zone, which was now indicated on the revenue profile as would be seen in the detailed presentation of the budget attached on oil and gas free zone, where about 4 billion naira was anticipated for collection on that item to add to the traditional revenue or IGR that they used to collect, which came up to about 1.9 added, making a body profile of about 6.4 billion.
So don't we go to recommendations then? Yeah? So take the first recommendation on Corporate Affairs Commission. The committee recommends a total. The committee recommends a total revenue sum of 15,076,333,700 738 naira 54 kobo only, as well as a total expenditure of 13,566,392,151 naira and 80 kobo. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We go to oil and gas. The committee recommends a total revenue of 6,422,258,211 naira 29 kobo only, as well as a total expenditure of 5,218,700,000 naira only. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We now go to Nigerian Export Promotion Council. The committee recommends a total revenue sum of 93,350,000 naira only. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We now go to Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. The committee recommends a total revenue sum of 1,105,500,000 naira only, as well as a total expenditure of 1,373,000,000 naira only. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Can you give us a report on Import Bank? Have we done that? No.
Mr. President, we discovered they are like a limited liability company, and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated and the CBN are the shareholders of that company. Hence, they do not report their revenue as IGR as indicated. Thank you, sir.
But you have a report here where the committee recommends a total revenue sum of 5,043,820,000 naira only, as well as a total expenditure of 3,433,270,000 naira only. Those in favor of that recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the consideration of the 10th order of day till another legislative.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved by the leader. As a second.
Which order? This is the conference committee report. Okay, we're not ready. The House is not ready. Okay, all right then. Chairman, when will you be ready? By the time we come back, definitely. You know how important this bill is that we need to pass it as quick as possible. All right then. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Those in favor that we stand on this item to another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 11th order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Corruption and Financial Crimes on the unlawful arrest of Innocent Chukuma by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Chukwuka Utazi, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, yesterday the Senate gave us an assignment to handle within 24 hours. Of course, Mr. President knows that 24 hours to handle a naughty issue of this nature cannot be done fully. So we are not fully here with the report. But I want to report that we have commenced deliberation on this. The committee met with Mr. Magu and his team yesterday and confronted them with the issues raised in the resolution by the Senate. And he gave his own side of the story. There are some other information that his team needs to supply us, which will help us, guide us to give a full report to the Senate. So But the most important thing is that after deliberating with him, I would ask him that he has to ensure that Mr. Innocent Chukuma was released immediately so that he can go back to his home and meet his loved ones, especially the wife that's traumatized for the embarrassment he had in their house. Mr. Innocent Chukuma called to thank this Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for rising to the occasion and helping to ensure that his freedom was given to him. Because he's just doing his lawful business as a businessman and all that. And the same thing with the members of the family. We have so many phone calls, some visitations to their office, thanking the Senate for protecting the entrepreneurs in this country, for doing their business, and they hope that this Senate continue giving protection, not just only to innocent woman or to any other person that may have fallen into this kind of a situation. So, Mr. President, we are going to, when we resume after the break, we are going to come with a full report. By then, we'll have received all the information we needed from EFCC. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, for your verbal report. We'll be waiting for the full report once we resume. And I think apart from the issues to do with the Chairman of Innocent Motors, I think what is even more important is really the definition of where a matter becomes a case of the state. Even if the issue of fraud or some misdemeanor, is it that the police no longer have a role at all anymore in criminal investigation activity? And I think your committee, apart from when you do, please look into deeper issues that we must begin to look at all our institutions and what is their prime responsibility, because there seems to be an overlap and sometimes, and I think that I hope that your report will capture that. So by the time we come back, you can give us a full report so that we can see where some of these lapses are and what we need to do to prevent such thing happening again. All right. Yeah.
In preemptive, we already had this issue yesterday. We discussed it to know the boundary where EFCC can do their job and where the police will do their job, so that we will not have conflict in the handling of issues in the country.
All right, so wait for your report then. Yeah. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the 12th order of the day because the chairman, Senator Kabir, is not here. We'll stand it out in another legislative day.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we do stand this item down to another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 13th order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Capital Market on the Demutualization Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Mustafa Bukar, Chairman of the committee, to move motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Mustafa Bukar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do consider the report on Demutualization Bill 2017 SB 531. I so move.
Senator Danjumala.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support the motion raised by the other colleagues.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we do consider the report of the Committee on Capital Market on Demutualization Bill 2017 SB 531, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Bukar Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to be quick on the report. The bill seeks to facilitate the judicial conversion and re-registration of Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares. This is to adopt official efficiency and implementation, and implement global best practice for the commercialization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Nigerian Stock Exchange, demutualization occurs when a mutual company owned by mutual members converts into a company owned by shares. By demutualizing Nigerian Stock Exchange, otherwise known as Nigerian Share Exchange, a company limited by guarantee of its own owners is hereby converted to become a joint stock or share company or a public limited liability company. As presently constituted, the shares of the Nigerian Stock Exchange or the exchange cannot trade its own shares on its own floor or on other floors, but can validly trade its own shares on its the stock and shares of other companies on the same floor. By demutualizing, the shares or stock of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will become eligible to be traded on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the floors of other international stock exchanges. There are presently 64 stock exchanges in the world, while 56 are demutualized. 8 stock exchanges in the world have not been demutualized. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is among the 8 stock exchanges which have not mutualized. The Nigerian Stock Exchange plays a major role in the Nigerian financial market, and its conversion and registration as a public company is highly needed. This is an essential development that is needed in the Nigerian capital market. The bill has only 46 clauses and 7 parts. The bill does not have any cost implications on government, rather than numbers of benefits that could have a multiplier effect on the Nigerian capital market and the domestic economy as a whole. It has 8 objectives. The bill will enhance and strengthen the Nigerian capital market for the expansion of the Nigerian economy. It has the potential really to boost the Nigerian economy from where we are now to great heights. It is a bid to stimulate economic growth and development. The bill is a goal set towards improving liquidity, comprehensiveness, and attractiveness in the domestic capital market, as well as promoting good corporate practices to boost investors' confidence, which we know that since 2008, the confidence in the market has really been very low. It is anticipated that the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will reinforce the continuous growth of a dynamic, fair, transparent, and efficient capital market that will significantly contribute to the Nigerian economy. The exchange will be able to raise capital, prepare its objectives, and will have the ability to liberate strategic partnerships in order to foster more effective competition on the global scale. On a wider scale, the proposed mutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will also have an enhancing capacity on the nation's capital market. The Nigerian Stock Exchange will grow to become the leading stock exchange on the continent of Africa and the gateway for significant investment into Africa's largest economy, and by this, an important leap in continent growth rate. Dynamism presented by the mutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange would augment Nigeria's debt profile and capital, raising capability by providing a number of attractive vehicles for foreign and domestic investors, especially the local investors. The committee held a public hearing. In fact, it was a joint public hearing that was held between the committee of the Senate and that of the House, and this was held on Thursday, 27th July 2017 in the conference room 034 of the House of Reps. We had technical sessions, and the stakeholders, about 11 of them, were there. The committee held a meeting after hearing in order to harmonize relevant issues raised by stakeholders. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, our emphasis at the committee level was to analyze and synthesize on critical issues to comply with international best practice. We equally took into cognizance our domestic needs, and peculiarity to ensure that we obtain standards that will suit our domestic purposes as a nation. We did make some observations, and these observations that we have made are actually going to be addressed or will be addressed by the rules of SEC. The SEC has a rule to regulate demutualized entities. And the observations include that stakeholders were in popular support of the passage of this bill. However, the committee noted the need to include stabilizing provisions in the proposed bill. The committee equally noted the need to provide for national interest and checkmate the intended consequences that might flow when demutualization is adopted. More so, the committee observed the need to clearly structure ownership of demutualized exchange to avoid future conflicts. And this is why really the SEC comes in to do the needful. The committee equally noted that technology, which is a very important variable in demutualization, as it helps properly focus on automation, since Nigeria is seeking to move away from the ordinary flow trading obtainable now to an automatic one, using ICT. Finally, the committee observed the negative consequences associated with the technology and advised on measures to be put in place to checkmate dangerous trends like spoofing, which can be used to create fraud in the market. Spoofing is creating negative or false information or communication that could help from traders within the system. The recommendation that the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria do pass the bill for an act to establish the Demutualization Bill 2017 SB 531 as recommended. Conclusion. The National Assembly representatives of the people is aware of the dwindling fortunes of the capital market, operational limitations of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and its effect on the economy. It is in pursuit of this national economic objective that the committee is giving its unflinching support and commitment to the Demutualization Bill, which when passed and assented to by Mr. President will ensure high-scale efficiency of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, facilitate capital formation and infrastructure development. The bill will reposition Nigeria's economic status and raise the volume and value of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I so submit. Thank you very much.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves into committee of the whole to consider the report, clause by clause.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we resolve into the committee of the whole to consider the report. I shall second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion to resolve in committee of the whole say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, this is a straightforward bill. There are only 9 clauses. Page 1, clause 1. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 2. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3. Those in favor that clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4. Those in favor that clause 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5. Those in favor that clause 5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 6. Those in favor that clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 7 and 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 9 short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor that apparently memorandum on page 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. And those in favor that long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the chair reports progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the chair reports progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we revert to plenary report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the Committee on Capital Market on the Demutualization Bill 2017 as approved as follows. Clauses 1 to 8 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, move that the bill be now read the third time.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the bill be read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital markets by enabling the conversion and the registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares and for other related matters 2017, third reading.
A bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital market by enabling the conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares and for other related matters 2017. This bill is now read the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 14th order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Capital Market in respect of a motion on the need to determine the status of unclaimed 90 billion naira dividends in securities for Nigerian investors. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2017. The President may wish to invite Senator Mustafa Abubakar to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Mustafa Abubakar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Mr. Abubakar, representing Katuna North. I rise to propose that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on the need to determine the status of unclaimed 90 billion dividends in securities for Nigerian investors. I so move.
Senator Gunka.
Mr. President, I rise to support the motion that the bill be read a short time. I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Capital Market on the need to determine the status of unclaimed 20 billion dividends in securities for Nigerian investors. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Mustafa Abubakar, please present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, on Tuesday, the 8th November 2016, the Senate passed debated a motion on the need to determine the status of unclaimed 90 billion naira dividends in securities for Nigerian investors. And this motion was raised by Senator Mohammed Shitu. This motion borders on incessant failure of distributing claims or dividends to Nigerian investors. Non-payment of dividends discourages local investors from participating in the capital market. Dividends are monies paid to shareholders from a company's profits or reserves. Unclaimed dividend arises when dividends due 15 months after payments were made and the amount not claimed by shareholders. Several factors contributed to the incidence of unclaimed dividends, among which include investors subscribe to shares of companies for return, either by way of capital appreciation or by the receipt of dividends. A lot of shareholders go for dividends payout. KAMA 1990 law, the Act S385 states that dividends shall be special debt due to and recoverable by shareholders within 12 years and actionable only when declared. Thus, investors are expected to enjoy the benefits of their investment by way of dividends once declared by their companies. However, in Nigeria, when dividends are declared, some shareholders, for various reasons, do not receive them. Despite the protection granted them under the KAMA Act, the cited above, and by several provisions put in place by regulatory authorities, most shareholders find it difficult to claim what rightfully belongs to them. In recent times, however, the e-dividend that was introduced, the e-dividend payment has intended to ease the situation. The blame on non-payment is to be shared by all the stakeholders. That is, the shareholders themselves and their proxies or representatives, the company, registrars, the CSCS, and other market authorities. Over time, unclaimed dividends have built up, reaching, we discovered 103 billion. At the time of the motion, it was 90 billion. Now it's 103 billion. Although we were told that the e-dividend payment has reduced it, but the volume of trading has increased, and that's why the amount has increased from 90 to 103 billion. After extensive deliberations, the matter was referred to the Senate Committee on Capital Market for further legislative action and to report back its recommendations. The objective of the referral are three. The legislative intention of the referral to the committee was to investigate the matter and urge the Senate to recommend the amendment of the 12-year ban on unclaimed dividends as provided for by Section 383 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 1990, that's the KAMA. To liaise with Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and other stakeholders to verify the alleged unclaimed dividends and circumstances under which it was accumulated, and to recommend appropriate measures to determine the status of the unclaimed dividends and how it will be distributed to the beneficiaries. After the referral, the committee held several meetings and scrutinized the circumstances surrounding the issue. Thereafter, the committee resolved as follows: to seek views of stakeholders, experts, and general public, and to conduct a public hearing to enable the committee to gather enough information to discharge its assignment. We did place some adverts in the newspapers and called for memoranda. The committee conducted its public hearing on the subject matter on the 7th day of March 2017, where it received and heard respectively written and verbal submissions covering a wide spectrum of the motion by the stakeholders. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in furtherance of this referral, the committee wrote and received comments from Securities and Exchange Commission. From the submission presented by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the quantum of unclaimed dividends was 103 billion as of September 30th, 2016. This figure was higher as against what was said, as I mentioned earlier, the 90 billion. But the committee observed many reasons why the unclaimed dividends have actually then a major problem. During the public hearing, SEC stated categorically that out of this amount, 86 billion are in the custody of the paying companies, while 17 billion is in the custody of the registrars. We should know that the registrars are the ones who make the payments, but somehow the money is also taken back to the companies who are not supposed actually to keep the money or trade with it that they can make money. However, the committee recently liaised with the Securities and Exchange Commission and other stakeholders, and the current value of the unclaimed dividend, as I mentioned, is 104 now. It has risen to 104 billion. The committee confirmed that Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, cannot keep the accumulated funds since it is not into retail banking. It is equally established that Securities and Exchange Commission's initiative on the issue could not bring down the value of the unclaimed dividend, and this has led to increased amount that's not in the book. Now, if we look at the reasons why we have tried to share the blame of what each of the stakeholders have to bear, shareholders themselves, they induce some problems. The problem of properly completing the share purchase application forms, either during public offerings or through their stockbrokers. Many shareholders are either illiterate or do not exercise adequate care while completing their forms. And once you fill the form wrongly, then it leads to a lot of difficulty in tracing who the real owner is. When there is a change in the investor's address and it is not properly and timely communicated to their company registrars, that again creates a problem. At times, however, some investors forward fictitious names when subscribing for public offering in order to be allocated a sizable chunk of the shares of the company in issue. Since during the share allotment, company registrars most of the time end up slashing the quantity of shares demanded by most stakeholders, particularly for hot issues. In order not to suffer a reduction of the volume of shares demanded, fictitious names may be used. The problem here is that such shareholders experience difficulty lodging the dividend warrants and in respect of those names, since those names have no bank account to realize them. Accumulation of small amounts of dividends that shareholders may consider not worth the effort of getting the payment. When you have a dividend of 5, 10, 20 naira, it's not worth the effort to start going to the bank looking for that amount of money. And over the years, these amounts have built up to high volume, the cumulative effect being a good stack of unclaimed dividends. Death of a shareholder with no next of kin, or with an unknown next of kin, or a next of kin that makes no effort to process probate letter or letter of administration, hence makes no contact with company registrars to claim its deceased dividend. When the shareholders are not aware of the company year's end dividend declaration date and payment date, most shareholders in Nigeria do not take time to study relevant information about the companies where they have invested. Inaccessible access location as a result of poor town planning. Some investors are resident in areas that cannot be easily accessed or even traced. Most shareholders have not subscribed to the e-dividend platform recently introduced by SEC. This has helped in increasing the value of unclaimed dividends. Now, the companies, registrars themselves, they also induce problems to the shareholders. Companies and registrars, on the other hand, shroud some of their activities in secrecy. The venue of AGMs are remote. Notice for meetings are not sent on time or not sent at all, etc. Hence, shareholders are locked out of information concerning their investments or dividends. The law provides that companies must publish a list of unclaimed dividends in their next AGM alongside their annual report for that year for shareholders to see. Many companies do not do this, hence shutting shareholders off the requisite information to realize that they have unclaimed dividends and to make the necessary moves to claim them. Added to the problem of stale dividend warrants is the problem of verifying such stale warrants. This may take months or years, a frustration that comes from company registrars and all the CS system. Wrong adoption of shareholders' information by company registrars from the various application forms, especially in the case of public offer. The market agents. Inefficient postal system where warrants are posted very late, and by the time the shareholder receives them, they have already gone stale. If the shareholder is unfortunate, he does not get the warrant in the first place. CAMA 1990 section 382 states that for the purpose of liability, the date of posting the dividend warrant shall be deemed to be the date of payment. This does not seem to be enforced as most warrants go stale. Legal provision. The Companies and Allied Matters Act, the Investment and Securities Act 2007, and the SEC rules and regulations made pursuant to the Act contain the legal provisions pertaining to unclaimed dividends. These are the sections that contain the way the unclaimed dividends are supposed to be administered or to be handled. If we look at CAMA itself, and all these laws require to be amended, and we have in the pipeline amendments to these laws that will be presented that will make sure that these requirements are reflected in those bills. But for the purpose of clarity, under CAMA, Section 3821 and 2 of CAMA provided as follows. Where dividends are returned to the company and claimed, the company shall send a list of the names of the person entitled with the notice of the next annual general meeting to the members. These are mentioned before. And after expiration of 3 months of the notice mentioned in one of these sections, the company may invest the unclaimed dividends for its own benefit in an investment outside the company, and no interest shall accrue on the dividend against the company. This is a provision that has actually enticed the companies not to actually encourage payment. And that is why it is important to amend the CAMA Act. And we will be liaising with the investment committee perhaps when we come to this amendment. The ISA provision on unclaimed dividend. Section 3121 of the ISA provides that, notwithstanding the provisions of this Act, the relevant provision of all existing enactments, including the companies, that is the CAMA law, and to be read with such modification as to bring them into conformity with the provisions of this Act in relation to capital market matters. Section 13D of the ISA also provides that the Commission shall be the apex regulatory organization for the Nigerian capital market and shall carry out the functions and exercise all the powers prescribed in this Act, and in particular shall perform such other functions and exercise such other powers not inconsistent with the Act as are necessary or expedient for giving full effect to the provisions of this Act. Section 313 and 3 of the ISA provides as follows. The Commission may from time to time make rules. That's number one. Prescribing as it deems fit appropriate necessary rules for dealing with unclaimed dividends and unclaimed certificates by public companies and their agents. That means SEC is supposed to do all this. Apart from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if the provisions of any other law in relation to the capital market matters, including the enactments specified in Section 1 of this section, are inconsistent with the provisions of this Act, the provision of this Act shall prevail, and the provisions of the other law shall be extent of the inconsistency be void. The above provision of the ISA therefore clearly empowers the Commission, that is SEC, to make rules and regulations in dealing with unclaimed dividends. The ISA in the above provision, section 312, 1C and J and 2, also confers superiority on the ISA over the provisions of CAMA and capital market. Findings. I would like to summarize that the findings we have is that as of 31st December 2015, the unclaimed dividends that returned to the companies amounted to 78 billion and to registrars 19 billion. That's making a total of 98 billion. As of 30th of September 2016, the total amount was almost 3 billion. The SEC decided to introduce an initiative that could actually help in addressing the problem of where the money is kept, so that they can reduce the quantum of unclaimed dividends. The SEC gave directive that the Commission issued a circular in August 2015, which directed all registrars of public companies to return 90% of the unclaimed dividends held by them for 15 months or more to the paying company. And we know that it is the registrars actually that pay, not the companies. Mandate registrars operating in Nigeria, the Nigerian capital market, to end issuance of physical dividend warrants by June 30th, 2017. That means all dividend warrants must now be issued through the e-system of payment. Registrars in custody of dividends which remain unclaimed by shares 12 years after the date of declaration or subsequently attain the 12 years threshold shall, upon the coming into effect of the new rule, transfer such monies into the Nigerian Capital Market Development Fund. This is explained in pursuant to the provision of section 313(12) of the ISA. Road shows as part of public education to encourage investors to know their rights, claim their dividends electronically. Direct cash settlements where monies from sale of shares are paid directly to investors' accounts without crediting it to the stock brokers. Implementation of the e-dividends. In January 2016, the Commission, in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, launched the e-dividends mandate management system. The e-dividend policy ensures direct payment within 24 hours after declaration of dividends by the companies. So really this will help in bringing down the amount of unclaimed dividends. Recommendations. That the Senate Committee on Capital Market, to which was referred the motion raised by Senator Mohammed Shitu, having carefully and critically examined the matter, hereby recommends that the Senate do amend the provision of section 3821, 383, 385 of the CAMA and section 3121, 13D, or 3131 and 3 of the Investment and Securities Act. This is to create an enabling law that will be open binding and more flexible. That's the first recommendation. In line with item 3 of the objectives of the referral as noted on page 3 above, the best way forward is a measure to ensure safety of this fund until the rightful owners are identified is to return back to status quo on the retainership of the fund between the registrars and the companies. Companies and registrars should be keeping 50% of the unclaimed dividends each, pending when the owners resurface or the Capital Market Development Fund is established. Finally, the law as cited above should be amended as a matter of urgency to avoid more accumulation and complications that will erode investor confidence in the industry. We wish to thank the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and indeed our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity offered to us to clarify on this matter. It is our hope that we shall continue to serve you and the country whenever we are called upon to do so. I submit to President. Thank you.
Yes, Senator Gamadi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gamade, Benue Northeast. President, let me commend the Committee on Capital Market for a very decisive job on this subject matter. I believe that a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of research, investigations, and so on. I, however, wish to comment on the conclusions, which is the recommendations made by the committee. To my mind, they appear to be inconclusive recommendations, in the sense that the problem of unclaimed dividend is not a problem of where to keep the money. It is what should be done with the money. So the three recommendations given here, to my mind, are simply defining a clearer picture of where you will keep unclaimed dividend. But the issue is really that of what do we do with this huge amount of unclaimed dividend? And the amendment of the laws, both the capital market law and the common law, as suggested here, are simply defining a clearer view on why SEC should recommend for the creation of Capital Market Development Fund. But what do you do with Capital Market Development Fund? That is the crux of the matter. I believe that there is economic development needs for the nation, but there should also be a reasonable attention for social development needs of the nation. And whatever surpluses or ineffective utilization of funds in economic development, those funds should find their way into the social development structure of the nation. In which case, there ought to be a recommendation here on what happens with the unclaimed dividend from these companies. It's not just where we should keep the money. So the details of what will happen to the Capital Market Development Fund should actually be spread out by the committee. So I believe that as much as this work has been thoroughly done, there is still room for some more aspect to be looked at. And we find a way of channeling this huge sum of money into areas that will benefit the ordinary Nigerian, most of whom do not even have a single penny to pay for any share. But of course, you know, supposed to be influenced by the economic development which SEC is doing on and behalf of the Nigerian people. So my recommendations is that we should have a recommendation for how this money should be used.
Chairman of the committee, can you respond to that very valid point?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. I thank you very much for the comment. We are guided by the referral. And the referral said they need to determine the status. And we have determined the status of the unclaimed dividend. The next stage, as I mentioned, those laws that are going to be amended, and also the Capital Market Development Fund are there. But we also have another bill on unclaimed funds. Not only this, which is in compliance with what the distinguished senator has mentioned. We have unclaimed funds. Unclaimed funds include not only dividend warrants. We have bank accounts that have been dormant. We have so many other resources that have actually not been utilized for the social purpose, development purposes that you mentioned. And that bill has already been referred to our committee also. So that is something that we are going to address under that. But also we have to provide for the laws, necessary laws that will enable this amount of money to be, first of all, not to accumulate. Not to accumulate, but also amounts of money that can actually find its way for the social development purposes that you mentioned. Thank you.
Deputy Leader, on the same subject matters.
I think I share, Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, I share a different view on this matter. The reason being that when Nigerians were encouraged to get involved in buying shares, little did they know that the procedure for getting their dividends back will be so cumbersome that they will not get it back. So that greatly affected the desire by Nigerians to invest. And we have a responsibility now to reverse that situation. And the way to reverse the situation is to say that there are still people who are alive, who have invested, somebody like me, and I cannot even get the dividends. Talk less of the investment. What I think should be done is that effort should be made to trace these unclaimed dividends to the investors and be paid back. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's traceable. I'm here. I'm alive. I have bought so many shares. You can't. If you send the dividend, whether I cannot see, I cannot claim. It's not my fault. So, for us to begin to have faith to reinvest in our country, the Senate has a responsibility to ensure that those who have invested before and who are alive, effort should be made to trace them. Let them be paid their investment. Let them know for the first time that it is possible to make an investment in this country and get your dividend back. Government cannot hide under that and say, okay, the money is available, we want to use it for social needs. I'm not investing for anybody to do social needs. It's the responsibility of government. And therefore, my own thinking is that for the Senate to be people-friendly, effort should be made to trace those who are traceable and be paid their dividends back, and then their investment is reorganized. Then by doing so, we will have succeeded in, boosting the desire for people to invest in the country. But if I invest and then you begin to do buju posting, in the words of Senator Dino, and then at the end of the day you put the money, and then government now wants to come and say it wants to take it. I don't think it conforms to common sense. I therefore urge that the thinking of the Senate to be geared towards a people-friendly decision.
Senator Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Senator Shewsani. Even though I'm not a capitalist, but I believe the issues being raised by this report is very critical. Critical in the sense that in a developing economy like ours, where there is high level of illiteracy, there's a need to simplify the methods in which people can claim what they have invested. The only thing that is easy on the issue of capital market is simply giving them the money. But the process and the claims and the benefits of it is such a very long process. First of all, they send letters to you that is almost 2 to 3 months late. And then secondly, the amount of money being sent is so small, and the process for which you will get that money is more expensive even than the amount of money that one's supposed to collect from them. So I believe that in as much as we want our people to buy shares and invest in this kind of process, there should be the simplification of it in such a way that people can claim their money. What has happened in the past is the fact that Nigerians were actually encouraged to put in their money to buy shares. That was as far back as 2006, 2007. All that many people were left with is letters and bills. From 2007, if you invest 5 million naira in a property, by this time you will be claiming 50, 60 to 70 million naira probably. But in the business of shares, you invest 10 million naira and they start sending letters to you that you are going to claim 5,000 naira. And that is something which our people here can't really understand. So at least there should be a process where this, if we want our people to invest, we should, how can we bring this to the language which our people can understand. We live in a society where people simply buy and sell instantly. And this process is very cumbersome. So something needs to be done, at least for the sake of those, not people like me who are socialists, for the sake of those who want to invest in the capital market. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I think the point raised by both Donal and also Senator Kimadi are very, very valid points. And I think this matter is very, very important for us to be careful in what decisions we take, because we are talking about 78 or 86 billion, which people have different interests. It is in the interest of the companies for nobody to claim the dividend, and the money goes back to the companies. So and I know that at the moment, KAMA law and ICA law, at the committee level, they've come up with a document for certain recommendations. So what if we agree is that I think the committee needs to go back and look at what do we do with this money, because that will guide us when we want to review the KAMA and ISA amendment. And I think it might require a one-day session with all stakeholders. What do we do with this money? One, is it possible, as Senator Nala said, that if we improve the procedures and reduce the bureaucracies, improve the administration, we'll be able to reduce this amount and going forward, eliminate it as much as possible? The answer could be a yes. But if majority of these unclaimed dividends are due to people doing multiple applications, then we will never be able to reduce it, because they are fictitious names that will never come across. So again, and if that's the reason, we must have a solution for that. So what I would like to suggest, if we agree, is to send the committee back to go and carry on one work with one term of reference. What do we do with these unclaimed dividends? Is it one, a development fund? Is it two, we increase, we improve on the administration that enables authentic shareholders to get it? But what I think that the amount is so huge that we need to be sure that we take our time in getting the answer. But just before we take a decision, I will just allow the chairman to make one more comment before we wrap up on this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I take note of your suggestion, but I need to clarify that this is private money, it's not government money. People have not invested their money for it to be used for social development. But I do agree with you that we can go back and ask about the administrative procedure that we should follow to reduce the unclaimed dividend. But in addition to that, SEC is already working out procedures through CS, and all the other procedures that they have started to implement, like the e-payment of dividend by June this year. These are procedures and methods that they have put in place to be able to reduce the amount of unclaimed, and it has been reduced significantly. This is more or less the bottom line of those that we have so far not been able to get to those people because of the reasons we mentioned in our report.
Yeah, Chairman, I agree with that. But the point of whether we want to accept it or not, 100 billion of idle money, some people are benefiting from that. Definitely. And I do not believe for as long as we are representing the people, we cannot continue to sit down and allow that to happen. We must find a way that those that have invested in that should be the ones that will benefit from it. I mean that's the point. In as much as they are getting better, the point is that as of to speak today, there's 106 billion lying somewhere that people who are benefiting from it, either not fault of theirs, but they are benefiting from it. And I think we have a responsibility to see that the only people that should benefit from that are people that invested in it. And if people that invested in it cannot benefit from that, then the worst scenario is, what should that fund be used for? Nobody is saying that it should be used for government issues, but definitely it should not be used by the companies that have declared the dividend to also be benefiting from the money. So we have to find a solution. So if we can give you a mandate that your committee should meet again and give us recommendations of what you think we should do with this money, and maximum we give you in 4 weeks, by 2 weeks after resumption, if you can give us a report on that item. Yes? Okay. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate Resolution Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
We have finished, Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we stand down the 15th order of the day till another legislative day.
All the.
That's the only remaining item.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we stand down the 15th item on the order paper.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that will stand that last item on the order paper to another legislature, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, having successfully and conclusively concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn Tuesday, the 9th of January, 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Let me just clarify what leader is saying. That we are joining to 9th of January to come back for committee work, but plenary is suspension till 16. But we'll come back and resume on the 9th of January. Okay. Yes, so that we can finish the budget. Thank you, Senator Alero.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the leader and ably amended by your Excellency, amplified by your Excellency, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate is here adjourned to Tuesday, 9th January for the purpose of committee work and plenary still suspended to the 16th of January 2018, 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate accordingly adjourned to Tuesday, 9 January 2018.